My last and final piece of advice is to focus on quality over quantity and take it from somebody that took the chaos gardening method seriously last year. Today we're planting tomatoes, which is exactly where my YouTube channel started last year. Despite all of my screw-ups, they still turned out great, and I got a bunch of tomatoes even though the deer ate them all. Most of them, but I had like 50 plants, so if you want to watch that video, I'll link it here. So this year I'm doing things a bit differently because I did a lot of research, and one of my favorite expert gardeners, M.I. Gardener, he has the best YouTube channel. You should check it out. It would make sense to follow an expert gardener in your area. According to Michigan Gardener, you shouldn't be starting your tomato seeds in big solo cups. There are a ton of videos out on gardening information, and it's easy to get lost in the mix of all of it. And last year, I was sold on the idea that starting your tomato seeds in solo cups is the best thing to do, because then you save yourself time and you don't have to transplant them. But it turns out that that's not the best way to start your tomatoes, and you're really doing them a disservice, and you'll end up with very leggy tomato seedlings that are definitely not where they could be if you started them in something like a smaller tray like these. You can also soil block, which I'm gonna do in these, but I'm gonna start my tomato seeds in here. They have a humidity dome, and tomato seeds are one of those seeds that you do want to start with a humidity dome. Lettuce, for example, you do not want a lid or a humidity dome on your lettuce seedlings. Also, if you want to see how I made my seed mix from scratch, I also just posted a video on that. This is M.I. Gardener approved and good for indoor and outdoor. There's kind of a debate about whether or not to use sterile seed start mix, and some people say to start indoors with completely sterile seed start mix, but then other gardening experts say to start with a little bit of compost or worm compost, which is what I used. So if you want to see that video and that recipe to make this, you can check that out here. So I just need to remind you guys that I am not an expert in this stuff by any means. I'm literally just documenting a newbie's journey into gardening, and sometimes that's helpful so that you feel like somebody else is also on the same journey with you, and maybe it'll give you some inspiration to be like, hey, I can do this too, you know, because I have no idea what I'm doing. You have no idea what you're doing. Maybe you do, but I definitely don't. So I hope that, if anything, this just inspires you to start gardening, even if you have no idea where to begin. But I kind of just spread out the mixture like this. You really don't get a lot in these packets, especially with tomato seedlings. I'm only planting 1 or 2 seeds per cell. Honestly, just 2 seeds per cell, and if both of them germinate, I can separate them or trim them. I think I might just do 4 cells, 2 seeds per cell. Last year, I made the mistake of doing too many seeds per cup, and I ended up with all of these seedlings that I couldn't bring myself to abort, and I sat outside like surgically separating them into their own little cups, and they were like this big, and it had been weeks, and I made a bunch of mistakes, and I still ended up with tomatoes. So if I could do it with all my screw-ups, you can too. You should expect that they will germinate, and you don't need that many per cell. The next mistake that I made was not preparing caging for the tomatoes, and I didn't really know what to do last minute, and I was rushing out of town. I had just gotten a concussion and hit my head. I thought I was gonna come back to my garden in time to cage the tomatoes, but stuff happens in life, and I couldn't get back up here for quite some time, and it wasn't until August that I got back up here, and my tomatoes were huge, and they were like falling over because they were ginormous. So you definitely want to cage your tomatoes when they're babies. When you put them in the garden, it'll be so much easier than trying to backpedal and fit them into this tomato cage. I'm making this same mistake again. Don't grow a bunch of varieties. I just can't help myself. And I ordered like, I don't know, 15 tomato varieties and got free ones from another company. And guys, you don't need that many tomatoes. Just get the ones that you like. But I know I'm making that mistake again this year, and I can't stop myself. I don't know. Somebody stop me. This is my favorite tomato variety. It is sweet orange cherry, and they are just so good. In all the tomatoes that I grew last year, I only ended up with a few baskets full of them because the deer ate most of my tomatoes, which brings me to my next mistake, and that is fencing. You need fencing for your garden. Don't be like me and think, oh, it'll be fine. The deer won't eat my plants. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And they will eat all of your hard work, and you will be so upset about it. Just don't do it. Get some fencing so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. This is probably a mistake that a lot of people make, but it was not fertilizing my seedlings, especially tomatoes. And I researched this after I had already planted and my seedlings grew up, but they would not grow past a certain point. And I'm like, why are my tomatoes stunted in growth? What is going on? And they were like yellow. And I did some reading, and it turns out your seedlings do need fertilizer. And I have a really good one from Park Seed that I'll link here. This is the one that I'm using for my seedlings. You just mix it with your water and you bottom feed it into your tray. So that is another tip for this year that I'm doing differently from last year. I top watered into the solo cups last year. This year, I'm going to be bottom watering into the tray so that it directs the roots to grow downwards. The next mistake that I made was planting my seeds way too deep into the soil. You only need them like 1/4 of an inch, which is tiny, is like that much, right? So don't plant your seeds way too deep into the soil, especially tomatoes. Make sure you're following the directions on the seed packets. They will tell you how deep to plant your seeds. I am notorious for not reading instructions, not following instructions, needing to learn the hard way, and just don't do it. Just follow the packet's instructions. I also created a Notion database with a bunch of seeds in it, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys soon. So keep a lookout for that because I think it's a really good resource. I'm building it so that you can kind of like enter your grow zone, and then it will show you a calendar of what to plant when. And I'm in the process of building that out right now, so I'm super excited to share that with you guys, so keep a lookout for it. If you want to see all the tomato varieties that I'm growing, you can check out my Substack, which I'll link below, and I'll also have a list of all of my mistakes and things that I did right so that you can check that out there. The last mistake that I made was over watering my seedlings, especially my tomatoes, and not having the right seed start mix. So having the right seed start mix and making sure that it's very breathable and aerated, but also can retain moisture at the same time. But you don't want to waterlog your seedlings. And last year, because of the combination of top watering and using regular potting soil mixed with a tiny bit of seed start mix, because it's so expensive to buy a lot of seed start mix, which is why you should make my recipe. So to cut the cost, I just mixed a little bit of it with potting soil, and that worked, but my seedlings definitely were behind by like 2 months on top of me getting a late start. So if you want your seedlings to flourish and grow really quickly and grow healthy and strong, a good seed start mix and not overwatering them and making sure that your bottom watering is the key, along with fertilizer. Also, these trays are linked in the description along with all of the ingredients to make my soil And if you want to make a germination station like mine, I have that linked in the description as well. So this year I'm doing things differently by planting less of each variety and focusing more on the quality of my seed start mix and just paying attention to each seedling and what it needs. Like, does your seed need cold stratification? That's something that I had no idea about last year, and I kind of just took all my flower seeds and sprinkled them in the beds, and a lot of them didn't grow, and I ended up wasting a lot of seeds and a lot of money. So definitely pay attention to each of your seed packets because some of them need a little more attention than others. Those are my tips and my mistakes that I made from last year, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.